Happy Friday, everybody. Today is January 23rd, 2026, and this is your Friday planning video. And one of the most common questions I hear, especially from longtime clients, is this. My plan looks solid right now, but what happens if things change? It's a fair question. Life always changes, but it doesn't usually change all at once. It changes quietly, gradually, sometimes unexpectedly. A job evolves, a health issue appears, markets behave differently than we expected, family dynamics shifts, priorities change. And the challenge isn't that change happens. The challenge is when change forces decisions instead of allowing us to make them thoughtfully. That's what I want to talk about today. There's a meaningful difference between planning for change and reacting to change. When change forces the plan, decisions tend to be rushed. They're often emotional, and they usually come at a time when clarity is hardest to find. When planning anticipates change, even loosely, decisions tend to be calmer, more measured, more aligned with long-term goals rather than short-term pressure. Good planning isn't about predicting exactly what will happen. It's about preparing for the range of things that could happen. As Yogi Berra famously said, it's tough to make predictions, especially about the future. Now, why plans break, even good plans? Most financial plans don't fail because the math was wrong. They fail because life didn't follow the original script. Think about it. Income changes earlier than expected. Retirement happens differently than imagined. Healthcare costs show up sooner. Family members need help. Markets go through uncomfortable stretches. None of these things are rare, they're normal. What matters is whether the plan was built with flexibility or whether it was built to work only under perfect conditions. The role of flexibility in a real plan, the flexibility shows up in a few key ways. First, cash flow awareness, knowing what's coming in, what's going out, and where adjustments can be made if needed. Second, liquidity. Not everything should be locked up or restricted, as you hear me say a lot. Having access to funds without penalty or disruption creates options. Third, risk alignment. Not just how much risk can I tolerate, but how much uncertainty can I live with and still sleep well? Those heart palpitations that one client spoke about recently, not the place we're seeking. And fourth, decision timing. Giving yourself room to choose when to act instead of being forced to act now. These are not dramatic concepts, but they're powerful when changes show up. Markets as a reminder. Now, markets often offer a useful parallel. We don't know when volatility will appear, but we know it will. The goal isn't to avoid every downturn, it's to structure portfolios and plans so that downturns don't derail everything else. The same thinking applies to life planning. You don't avoid change, you plan so change doesn't take control. Before we're going to ask these questions. Here are a few planning questions that I encourage you to revisit periodically. If income changed, what would we adjust first, and what would we not touch? If retirement timing shifted by a year or two, would the plan still work? If markets were uncomfortable for a period of time, what decisions would we not want to make under pressure? If priorities change, would the plan allow us to pivot, or would it resist us? These questions aren't meant to create anxiety. They're meant to create awareness. Planning is not static. Now, a good plan is not something you set and forget. It's something you revisit, refine, and realign as life unfolds. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is preparedness. When planning stays ahead of change, confidence tends to follow, not because everything is predictable, but because you know you're not boxed in. The most valuable plans I've seen over the years aren't the ones that assume everything would go right. They're the ones that acknowledge uncertainty and they build around it. Planning for change before change forces the plan isn't pessimistic. It's practical. It's thoughtful, and it's one of the most important disciplines in long-term financial decision-making. If this is something you've been thinking about, or if recent events have raised questions, this is exactly the kind of conversation worth having before pressure sets in. Next week, we're going to wrap up this January series by talking about discipline, the kind that keeps plans working quietly all year long. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next Friday.